who's going to the summit this year? Okay, nice. So for those of you who don't know me, you should know that I love WTF Bikexplorers, and also I'm not known for my crystal clear memory, but I remember the first time I found out about this organization. It was December 2017, and you know how winters go in Portland. It's wet, it's dark. I was also living in like a shoebox-sized room where every time I opened a door in my room, like it slammed into something else. I just couldn't physically move. So I was feeling pretty worn out. And then my partner turned to me and said, "Hey, do you know about WTF Bikexplorers?" And I was like, "What the fuck is that?" I had no idea. So he showed me their Instagram, and all I saw was like super colorful fonts. I saw people who weren't cis white men riding bikes, shredding trails, and I was like, oh, they're hosting a summit, and they have scholarships, and the summit's in Montana. I've always wanted to bike in Montana, but I've been too afraid. I was afraid of grizzly bears, honestly. That was like the biggest reason why. But the fantasy come real of having all of this come together, meeting all of my own personal needs and passion, dissipated all those fears. And I said out loud for the first time, "I'm biking to Montana!" And it was just it. It was decided for me. So I did the most responsible thing next. I went onto more social media, and I went to WTF Bikexplorer's Facebook group, and I posted a Riders Wanted ad. And that's where I met two strangers, Tessa and Sarah, who we then came together and got to know each other through email and a Google Doc that then profiled our 500-mile ride that was from Walla Walla, Washington to Whitefish, Montana. Even though I didn't know these people whatsoever, it was clear that we all brought gifts to the table, and it was super balanced. Sarah had the house in Seattle where we all met for the first time and did a gear shakedown. I had the maps and the daily route breakdown, and Tessa had the car that took us, our 3 bodies, and our 3 bikes strapped to the roof all the way to Walla Walla, Washington from Seattle. And how we showed up each day on that route was apparent from day one without even having to meet each other, because we just already had one thing in common. That was the summit. That was this desire to come together and share that. So the first couple days, mind you, this is August, right? The summit was in August last year, and it's Walla Walla, Washington, which is like the desert. So the first couple days were really, really hot, like 110 degrees hot. Like 2 of us puked from the heat hot. But that's okay, because that's when ice hat was invented. And it's pretty simple. If you've never done this before, you take off your hat, you put ice in it, you put it back on, you get on your bike, and you go. Oh, ice hat. I wish I had a picture of that. Actually, ice hat was invented with that hat on screen that I got at the Dollar Tree at 4th of July. Yeah, it was pretty clear that when we came together, all of our superpowers just came out naturally. We were just that comfortable with one another. My superpower was I could see wildlife from 1,000,000 miles away on my bike. It's just what I saw. Tessa, who's a fucking beast if you don't know her, she was riding several miles ahead of us no matter what, smiling, no matter how hard it was. And then Sarah always seemed clean. She's like the cleanest rider I've ever met. At the end of the day, Tessa and I would be covered in dirt, sealed with sweat, and then Sarah would be over there setting up the tent, radiating from cleanliness as if she just stepped out of the shower. And we still to this day don't know how she did that. You know, biking out of the desert and into the greenery of Idaho, it got a little bit easier, and we came to find that we didn't really have to worry about bears so much, but more so about bees. And that's because each of us individually on separate days got stung in the chest by bees descending downhill. One day I was wearing a flannel buttoned all the way up to the top, and it was like this really cinematic experience. I'm like careening downhill as fast as I could, and my flannel just like blew open. I was like, yeah, I'm free! And then a fucking wasp landed on my chest and stung me multiple times. It was really, it's funny now. We didn't pack any like hydrocortisone cream or anything. That was like the one thing we didn't have. But despite the heat and despite the bee stings, I kept saying throughout the week of writing with these two strangers that this is the easiest tour I've ever been on. Now mind you, as I said earlier, I've been touring for 10 years, but I've never ridden with another WTFer in my entire life. It was either completely solo by myself or with ex-boyfriends. It's just what happened. And there's something really magical when you are on the road sharing that experience with somebody who gives you the gift of being completely who you are. So let me tell you a couple other things. How riding with WTFers was different for me in my own personal experience. One, I got to ride in my underwear. That was really cool. And I didn't really, it wasn't like a safety in numbers thing, it was really like a zero body judgment thing that I had not experienced before in my life, not even within myself. Number two was flexibility every single day. And the more flexible we were with one another and with the ride, the more open to adventure we were. And one of my favorite memories of this example was we had a designation in mind, a very specific route, and we are at this cafe in the middle of nowhere. It's like the only service for 80 miles. And this local, obviously seeing three riders, kind of gross looking, obviously with a loaded down bike outside, he was like, hey, no, you don't actually want to go that way. You want to go this way instead. Because this way means you get to land at a hot spring. We're like, yeah, we should listen to that. So we detoured and ended up camping at this hot spring. We ended up early, so we got to make this Thanksgiving feast around camp, and then waited till dusk, and we got to soak in the nude for a while at the hot spring, which was a first for me as well. But we would have never known about this if we weren't open to that. So that was really special. Another lesson, another new experience besides that was emotional check-ins every single day. Every single question that we posed to one another was, how do you feel about? So it was always open. I haven't really experienced that since, really. It was really special. And another big lesson that I probably am still working on, but I started to learn through this experience was how to be gentle towards others while riding and sharing that extreme physical challenge, and how to be gentle on myself instead of just grinding out those miles. WTF Bike Explorers truly is a movement. They aren't waiting for equality to be given, they're taking it. And the first time in my life, I'm having to decline WTF movements or WTF events because there's so many simultaneously happening in the Portland area. This is a good sign. I actually don't know where I'd be without WTF because, like I said before, I had ridden so many miles and so many days by myself, including a large chunk crossing the country to get here in the first place, that I thought, you know, this chapter of my life, it's just done. Because I was so starved to share it with people. But now I have 2 WTF tours planned, one of which I'm leaving at the end of the month to go ride Arizona's Fool's Loop. I've been gifted a bag sponsorship. I have a mountain bike frame that I'm waiting to build out, and unrelenting support from my community. That's it.